So this is, just to make sure, this is a new master's degree in drug development and product management, which is a combination of, as you will see, of science and business, which is very unique. I should mention one thing, which is that if you have Googled my name on the internet, you have seen that I've been teaching courses on Coursera in drug discovery, development, commercialization, and we have had to date over 60,000 students worldwide, which is one of the reasons after doing market research survey, we decided to create this program in drug development and product management. So what we're going to talk about this evening is the degree. We will cover what the objective of the degrees are. We'll cover the people who are going to be teaching and leading this, as well as give you an understanding of what are the career opportunities with such a program, which I think is absolutely critical for anyone who is a career advancer. In addition to that, we'll go over the administrative side of the program, such as cost and time when this is going to be delivered at UCSD. It is a full Master of Science from UCSD, okay? Even though our colleagues from Extension are managing some of it. The degree itself is given by the graduate division of UC San Diego, but it is offered through the Skaggs School of Pharmacy. So the Skaggs School of Pharmacy faculty, a number of the faculty come from the Skaggs School of Pharmacy. Some of us have dual appointment also with the School of Medicine. As you will see, or if you have been on the website, we have a number of co-chairs who actually are executive in the pharmaceutical industry. One of the key differentiating criteria of this program is the fact that many of the lectures and many of the courses will have participations from executives from the pharmaceutical industry, from people like out at Pfizer, out at J&J, Janssen, Novartis, Amgen, and many others, as well as managed care executives, which will be part of it. So again, that is a very unique feature. Next. So who am I? My name is, as I said, William Ettouati. My funny accent is from France, even though I spend a lot of time in the UK, which you can guess once in a while. My background is a doctorate in pharmacy and pharmaceutical sciences. I was trained both in France and here in the US, did a postdoc at UC Santa Barbara. Spent about 17 years in the pharmaceutical and biotech industry, both in new product planning, product management, launched drugs around the world in a number of therapeutic areas, as well as was CEO and CBO of biotech companies. So I took company public, did probably over 20 deals over my career. And then for the past 9 years, actually, I've been at the School of Pharmacy and Pharmaceutical Sciences at UC San Diego, where I have two roles. One is to do collaborations with pharmaceutical company, so research collaborations with faculty from the School of Medicine and the School of Pharmacy, as well with pharmaceutical company. And then the other role, which was something very dear to my heart when I came to UCSD, is to teach. And I teach this course in drug discovery, development, and commercialization, which is part of an elective of the curriculum of the School of Pharmacy, but also School of Medicine, Rady Business School students, UC Irvine School of Law students, and PhD students from biomedical science. So the idea is to actually recreate what you see in a small biotech or in a multifunctional team, is to have people with individual background and different background to join together and work as they would in a biotech company or in a project team. With that, I will turn the microphone.
I'm Jan Hirsch. That's me in the middle. Williams is our managing director for the program. I'm the faculty director. I am from the Skaggs School of Pharmacy and Pharmaceutical Sciences, where I'm the chair of the Division of Clinical Pharmacy. Like Williams, I kind of have a career that's been half and half academics and half in pharmaceutical industry. So I started out, I am a pharmacist by original training. I have a doctorate, a PhD in pharmaceutical marketing and economics, which I love. And so I started out kind of in industry, and I kind of went to University in North Carolina. I was on the faculty there, went back to industry for about 14 years, and then I ended up here at UCSD and when we were starting a new school of pharmacy. While I was in the industry, I was very fortunate to work for a couple of very large companies. And my area of expertise is pharmacoeconomic research. So I look at the economics of drug impact, and which is a big deal nowadays. And I was also able to work on a global basis, just like Williams. And worked in these project teams that Williams talked about. So I was kind of the pharmacoeconomics person on the projects teams. And it's very fortuitous that Williams and I ended up in the same place, because we've put this master's program together. We can see what's inside the pharmaceutical company because we've been there. But then I've also worked in the managed care organizations. And so what's unique about this program also is we're looking at what happens after a drug is launched and it goes into managed care. There's a whole product management that goes on there of whether or not the products are actually reimbursed or whether they're utilized, prior authorization. So we're going to cover a lot of that in this program also, which I think is, both sides, of that. So the third person up here is Jeremiah Malper. He's the third. He couldn't be here tonight. He's the third person in our triumvirate of the planning team. Jeremiah has been with the FDA. He is now now the regulatory focus comes into play, which is very important in product development and utilization at the managed care side. But he is in our Skaggs School of Pharmacy also, and works normally with us on a daily basis. And I think we're going to go on to, now I can kind of introduce, Williams mentioned that the program is administered by the UCSD Extension. Right? And here are the players, basically. Some of them are with us today that are going to be working with us, making the program happen from an administrative point of view. And they're kind of the face to the recruitments and to the students and making everything happen behind the scenes.
All right. Thank you, Jen. So let me give you the objective of the master's. Really, the master's degree is to train, as I said, what I call career advancers. So people who have worked for a few years in industry and either want maybe to get out of the lab or want to expand their horizon in the pharmaceutical industry. So what this program is going to do is it's going to give you a really good understanding of what is clinical development. Okay, so if you have a PhD by background and you were in the lab and you've been doing a lot of research, I mentor a lot of PhDs and postdocs. I can tell you they don't really know what drug development is. A few of them do. But this is going to really give you some deep understanding of what does it take to take a drug from a preclinical stage all the way to the market and post-market utilizations. The other thing it's going to provide you with is this commercial aspect. Jan spoke about the pharmacoeconomics. I spent many years in international marketing, so I launched drugs around the world in multiple therapeutic areas. I've also started biotech companies and raised a fair amount of money, both from private investors, i.e. venture capitalists, and also been on IPO, so initial public offering for biotech companies. I've sold companies, I've done many, many deals. So you're going to get also that aspect from that perspective, and we'll get a little bit more in the details as to the curriculum itself. So with that, a few things that are important. What are the features? And I gave you already a few of them. One of the really key features that I think is very important for you to understand is this is not a program that is being taught by what I would call a pure academic or pure academics. Okay? As Jan told you, she has worked in industry for a number of years, so have I. A number of the chair have worked in the pharmaceutical industry, managed care industry. We have, for example, 2 councils who are going to do our course in intellectual property and corporate management. What does that mean? There are 2 lawyers. One of them is actually finishing her PharmD, who spend time in a law firm and also in a biotech company. And then the other person is also right now a in-house lawyer. So you are going to get courses from people who truly have been there and understand that. In addition to that, many of the courses are going to have people who are currently working in very, very specific area today. Meaning we have a lot of guest lecturers who will come from many pharmaceutical companies. If you look at our board, for example, you know, the CEO of Biocom, which has been a great supporter of this program, as well as senior executives of pharmaceutical companies, are actually on our board. And you will have some of these people come and talk to you. One last feature I would like to mention is the first course that you will be exposed to. That first course is going to be to give you an understanding of all the types of job that this master's degree are going to address and potentially open doors for you. During that first course, you will develop what we call a strategic career plan. Okay, I'm sure all of you know what a business plan is. Well, it's a business plan of you. I.e., what you are going to do is you're going to put together a SWOT analysis that stands for strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threat. You will learn all these terms as we go through the course. And you are going to say, well, gee, you know, based on all these jobs that potentially this master is going to offer, well, here are the top 3 I might be interested in. And you're going to put a plan together. You will have a faculty mentor as well as an industry mentor, which I think is critical from that perspective. And this plan will be a dynamic document, meaning that it's not something you're going to write the first day and say, well, that's it, that's the end of it. It's going to be something that you're going to use throughout the master's. So, you know, when you are looking for a job later on, you are going to be very clear as to what are the skills I need if I want to work in regulatory affairs, what are the skills I need if I want to do pharmacoeconomics, what are the skills I need if I want to do business development. You will be able to actually tailor yourself to that and really start thinking beyond that. And that is absolutely critical. So I just mentioned our board. If you go on our website, you will see that we have a strategic advisory board that has not only people like Joe Panetta, who is the CEO of Biocom. If you don't know Biocom, I suggest strongly you go on Biocom's website. They have over 900 pharmaceutical and biotech companies, as well as medical device and healthcare companies, which are member of Biocom. Joe has been a great supporter of this program. This will be very important because at the end of the program, or maybe between year 1 and 2, you will be doing an internship in a company. Well, Biocom is going to work with us to, you know, find some of these internships, which again will give you hands-on experience in a pharma company. Other people like Andreas Kosler, who is at Jensen here locally, is in clinical development. He's an MD. Some of them are MD PhDs. They are going to bring to the program, again, this really important piece, which is this what the industry going to need 2 or 3 years from now? You know, are you addressing the needs from industry rather than teaching something that, you know, we needed 10 years ago? So that, again, is going to keep the program in check.
So we have 3 very specific objectives for the program. The first one is we want you to gain insight into the drug development process, right? But also the deployment process. And that deployment process is what I mentioned. You're out and it's marketed drug and it's being utilized in managed care markets, or is it being utilized by markets that are whole countries? You know, and how is that managed? So it's from very beginning, you know, to the end. Yeah. Second is you're going to acquire the skill set, which is really a dynamic and it's a very important skill set to be working in these collaborative teams that we've already mentioned 2 or 3 times. Everything in pharma, biotechs, managed care, you sit around the table with teams of people, and everybody's different than you are. They're representing their expertise, and we're going to create those teams with our students, you know, and you're going to work in those teams, so you'll know what that's like. And then, as Williams has already mentioned, the idea is we want this to be a really solid bridge to employment. We have designed this for people that are career advancers. You know, we want you to advance your career. We want you to walk out. We want you to plan your career all the way through the program as we go. And so you're going to have a really good idea of making that next step to advance your career and build on what you already have, the strengths that you already have. So, well, we do have some specific things on what we think you'll gain an understanding of. First, as we've already talked about, pharmaceutical marketing. Okay. how to drug launch. What happens? You have to market and you launch the product. But then after that, there is a life cycle management that you have to have, for your drugs, because you launch once, but you keeps going, and there's other competitors coming in. What gets very, very dynamic and exciting too. The global nature of drug development. Nothing is done in just one country. In other industries too, but certainly in the pharmaceutical industry. In managed care is kind of a U.S. kind of thing, but everything that happens in managed care is the same thing that happens in every other country, but they're doing it at a more country level in managing the utilization of those products. Then kind of looking at different kinds of analyses, and there will be analyses in this program, clinical data analysis, some quantitative analysis, graphical analysis, because that's what you need, and you're going to be thinking about these things and working within your teams on projects. Lots of projects, thinking projects. So you learn something and you put it together and you use it. Right? Health policy intelligence. Well, we can just think about health policy in the U.S. right now. That's enough for us to go on. But how does this all fit? How do we respond? How do we take that into account? All that's overlaying that. And then Williams has mentioned this legal. This is huge, legal and regulatory. Legal, patent, intellectual property, all of those types of things are woven into the drug development and also the drug utilization deployment process. So we're going to have people coming that do this and talking about those for you. So you'll really see real live people and what it's like to do these things. So course offerings. I'm going to tell you about, it's 2 years. All right, I'm just going to quickly walk through the quarters here. I'll take the first year. I'll give the second year to Williams. So the first quarter is, as Williams mentioned, we're going to start off with what are these opportunities for actual employment in pharma, biotech, managed care. So you get a lay of the land there. All right, so you'll see that. You'll start developing your career development plan that's going to evolve with you throughout. We're going to give you a little pharmacology. Okay, it's drugs. There's a little pharmacology that you need to learn here. Not everybody's, that's their favorite thing. But to learn about the main diseases, there are certain categories. Then we're going to look at a little bit of pharmaceutics, looking at small molecules and macromolecules, and this will all make sense to you if you're not in biosciences now. But these are the major categories of drug development. We have small molecules and macromolecules. Then once you know about the drugs, then we're going to take them into the drug development process, starting with preclinical and looking at, well, how do you get a drug? How do you get it registered? What do you have to be doing? What kind of studies do you need to be doing? You're developing your regulatory strategy and your clinical development strategy at the same time. That's the fall quarter. Second quarter will be the winter quarter. And except for the first quarter, there's 3 courses in each quarter. Clinical trial development. Now we're going to learn about clinical trials, phase 0 to phase 3, which will make all sense to you how that does. And then we'll get into health outcomes evidence. What are the drugs doing? They're not just affecting clinical outcomes, they're also affecting economic outcomes and humanistic outcomes. And then we have a course looking at the analysis of, it's kind of a long title, analysis of industry needs in drug development and product management. That's where we're going to help you, and we're going to go through and we're going to look at, all right, different companies. Do you think you want to do something in managed care? Great, let's look at managed care companies. You want to do something in biotech? Let's look at those. Let's learn to profile them. Then you're going to be starting to think about, oh, this is how I could do an internship with these companies. You'll start making those connections with our help and with our guest lecturers' help to start to analyze which companies you could go to. So we actually have a course designed to help you do that. And then this spring, ending up the first year, we have a course on biologics and biosimilars, which is huge. They're really, really expensive, and it's the next wave, but it is the wave now in drug development. We're curing things, we're treating diseases that we never thought we could treat before at a high price. And a lot of these are these biologics, okay? Marketing strategy, product management, life cycle, and actually walking through those, doing marketing strategies. And then my favorite, principles of pharmacoeconomics, because that's what I do. That's my course. And drug development along those stages. And then we're going to go to year 2, which I'll let Williams tell you about year 2.
So just maybe before I go to year 2, on the commercial side, as I mentioned to you, I have launched drugs internationally. The way you were doing product launches 5 years ago is very different from what you are doing today. The other thing you will learn also through your regulatory strategy is that basically your marketing is also very regulated. This is an industry where you can't just basically say anything you want about your drug. The FDA, which is why it's extremely important you have a course on FDA regulation, basically mandate what you can say to physicians or to consumer here in the US versus what you are willing to or what you wish you could say. The other thing we will cover is managed care and managed market. It's going to be very important understanding, especially in the US, but also on a global basis. Jan mentioned the fact that managed care is really a US thing. It's true. At the same time, they have been looking at European models as well, and a number of them have been doing this, which is quite different, or actually I should say anywhere around the world beside the US has a national system, which is something I've been evaluated here. But this is something that's going to be important because you launch your drug. In the US, you can basically charge as much as the market will bear plus 10%, as one of my old bosses used to say. In the rest of the world, the government tells you how much you're going to be able to charge. And in the US, if you don't have a good understanding of managed care, payers, PBMs, and everything else, well, your drug is never going to be on a formulary. And then good luck to you to try to make any money. So that's going to be very, very important. Other things we will cover in the second quarter is challenges and need in therapeutic areas. What does that mean? That's a mouthful. What it means is what I'm actually doing right now with pharmaceutical industry. Pharmaceutical industry, when they come to an academic institutions and want to understand what the faculty are doing, especially on translational research, is they are thinking 10 years ahead. What are the needs going to be 10 years from now when I launch a new drug? And what is this novel biology and this novel really understanding of diseases that is now happening in academia? So pharma is now looking at academia to basically fuel the pipeline. It's called open innovation. We'll talk about this. It's becoming extremely important. Actually, a lot of the big pharmaceutical companies spend 50% of their budget into open innovation. So having an understanding on how do you do basically analysis on the new product planning side, how do biomarkers are important in the drug development, what are we looking at, 10 years from now that's going to be on the market is going to be critical. This is a course that will address this. And the third one, which is very important, Jan mentioned and I mentioned that you're going to be working in teams. Every single course, by the way, is going to group the students in specific teams, maybe 3 or 4 depending on the courses, where you will have projects that you are going to be working on. That's very important. We want to make sure that all of you at the end of the day, if you are in this program, you will know each of your colleagues in the class. You will have a fantastic network right there already. This is modeled towards, based on the top MBA schools in the country. We actually will use a lot of case studies from major universities. I won't name them because they are competitors of ours. But not in this program, by the way. This is a program that's very unique. I've done a lot of research online, and this program, the way it is, does not exist. There are variations of that program, but that combination of science and business, I could not find it. If you find it, please Google me, okay? Please send it to me because I want to know about it. I want to do benchmarking on it. Anyway, going back to what I was talking about, you are going to learn about foundation of project management. What does that mean? I have a drug, I'm at early stage, I want to get it approved by the FDA or by the EMA or the Japanese Ministry of Health. Well, what do I need to do that? Well, you're going to have a team of people, MDs, PharmDs, PhDs, engineers, lawyers, even finance people. I'm joking because I spend a fair amount of time in finance. That are going to sit around the table and they are going to discuss the project. And it's going to be a moving, project as you go along. Well, you need to have somebody who's going to say, well, let's make sure we design this project so we have go, no-go decisions, so we have critical areas that need to be addressed so that we have the proper budget. That's all about project management. That's very important. Very different than product management. Winter quarter, I talked about patent strategy. Well, if you don't have IP in the pharmaceutical industry, you have nothing. Okay? Freedom to operate and intellectual property are the foundations of pharmaceutical industry. That's why you have, a number of companies have been blocking for many, many years biosimilars. You will learn that term. In Europe, biosimilars have been launched for the past 6 years. In India, I think they have been on the market for even longer than that. In the US, the first biosimilar was approved last year. Okay? Why? Because there is very strong lobbying from pharmaceutical companies as not to do that. And there's some reasons about it. So patents are extremely important. That's what allows you to basically make some money. At the end of the day, it's a business. Okay? And if you can't make money, you can't reinvest, and you can't discover new drugs. You need to have that. And if we look at the progress we have made in drug discovery, and the life expectancy is increasing every year. Well, a big part of it comes from pharmaceutics and pharmaceutical drugs. So you will cover this. Another course that's very dear to my heart that I'm going to be teaching is something I did for many years in the pharma world, and also I'm doing right now at UCSD, is corporate development, so business development. And it's interesting because every time I have MBA students who have a pharma background, they always want to be in business development, even though they don't know what it means, but they want to do that. Okay? It's very, very varied, depending if you're on the buy side or on the sell side. It's quite different. And you are going to learn something which, if you work currently for a company and the company is willing to pay for you, might not be necessarily too inclined to pay. It's called, how do you start up a biotech company? Entrepreneurship. Okay? Actually, it's kind of interesting because now there's a lot of pharma companies who want entrepreneur in their company. So when I say that, kind of tongue-in-cheek, in the sense that pharma now wants entrepreneurs. They want people who think outside the box. I started a number of biotech companies. I told you I took companies public. I sold companies. You're going to have people who will come in that course to tell you about their story. In terms of how do you start? I have an idea. Well, an idea is great, but that's not the end all and be all. You're going to understand about how to raise money. You're going to understand how to put a business plan together. You're going to understand what it takes to put a management team. Because at the end of the day, people invest in people. They don't invest in ideas. Okay? I'm sure anybody, if the founders of Google tomorrow wanted to start another company, they would have no problem raising money. So again, that is very, very important. And you will have that in that course. The other thing we will cover is a comprehensive analysis of key principle, and this is in the winter quarter, where we are going to give you an overview of everything you learned. And you will have some reviews, which will be important from that perspective for your comprehensive exam. And you will have, again, we'll try to go more in depth in some areas that you will tell us, gee, I'd like to spend a bit more time here and there because that's important to me. And finally, what we mentioned earlier is this internship. Well, the internship, and that's one of the things we are still looking at and is a bit in flux. Some students might decide, I want to do the internship between year 1 and year 2. Okay? I don't have any problem with that. I think it's perfectly fine. Again, we'll have to really make sure that this works out. But this is going to be critical for you to explore the area that you want to go and work in after you graduate from this program. So if you want to do a regulatory affair position, let's say you want to be manager in regulatory affairs for a biotech company, well, if you could do an internship at the FDA, that could be really fantastic, or at the EMA, or other regulatory agencies. If you want to do a position in business development and you work with a small company to try to put their business development strategy together on how are they going to partner their research with big pharma or other biotech companies, well, being able to be in the trenches doing that is going to be fundamental. So we believe the internship will be absolutely crucial part of your learning as well. So with this, I mentioned the strategic career plan. I can't emphasize this enough. This is something that will be your business plan. And this business plan, you will take it with you as you move through your career. I am always very, very careful about doing what used to be done in Russia a long time ago, where they would do like 10-year, 20-year planning. It never worked. Do you know why it never worked? Because life, doesn't plan 20 years out. Things happen that you didn't plan, that you couldn't foresee. So dynamic is the key word here. okay? But having a plan of saying, well, gee, 10 years from now, I'd like to be CEO of a company. Well, that's great. It's kind of like saying, gee, tomorrow I'd like to run a marathon. I can tell you I won't be able to do it, right? You have to train for it. You have to plan. Well, how do I get there? Well, if I want to be CEO of a company, here are the functions I need to know. Do I need additional education? Do I need to position myself in a company in these areas? What is the profile of a CEO of a biotech company? Or maybe it is, I want to be head of regulatory affairs. Same thing. You have to plan this. You have to really understand what does it take to get there. And hopefully that will help you to do that. So it's something that you will take with you. The other thing is you're going to be networking with a lot of industry executives. And if I can tell you one thing, if you look at my resume and my background, I used to have an old boss of mine who used to say I'm a mercenary. That's not really true, but that was the way it was in pharma. Pharma is extremely dynamic. People get bought. Well, when I say people, actually, I mean companies. And sometimes they buy the people, sometimes they don't. Okay? No, but seriously. They buy companies. So a merger happens. When a merger happens, you have layoffs, but then you get new opportunities. You develop your career. You know, in the tech industry, spending more than 2 years in a company, you're a dinosaur. What are you doing? You know, unless you are very senior up and you are CEO of the company, then it's a different story. In the pharma world, it used to be, there were some companies who used to say, you know, from cradle to grave, they used to be the mantra. That doesn't exist anymore. If you are not comfortable with change, the pharma industry is not an area you want to go into. It is constantly changing, okay? You're going to network with a lot of executives. Well, these people hold the keys to jobs, or they know about positions in areas, they know what's happening today. That is essential for you to have. And then you will create strong ties. I mentioned to you, we are going to really have teams for every single course. Your cohort of about 24 to 30 students the first year, so this is the first time, you will all know each other extremely well. You will all know to work with each other extremely well. Whether or not your personality does not match, that's the other thing you will learn. Why? Because when you're in the business world, you don't need to be in love with your coworker. You just need able to function properly with them. And that's what you will be doing in this, okay? Potential careers, project team leaders, I talked business development directors, regulatory science, strategic planning, portfolio management, clinical trial management. This is a very short list. By the way, one of the other things we have done and we are currently doing is we are looking, when we design this program, at monsters or, a number of other searches that you can find, search sites where you look for jobs, such as some of the journal, Fierce Biotech, Fierce Pharma, and so forth. And we look at specific jobs that exist today. What is pharma looking for a business development director? What is pharma looking for a director of strategic planning? What are the skills they are looking for? What is the experience they are looking for? That's how we designed the program. We went backwards. We said, okay, what are the needs in the pharmaceutical and biotech industry and managed care industry for these types of jobs? And how do we design the program so when you graduate out of this program as a student and a professional, now you have those skills, both the soft skills and the hard skills and knowledge, so that you can apply them the ground running when you start a new job. So that's how we designed it.
Okay, so we're going to end up just giving you some particulars about admissions. Who are we looking for? Who do we think this program would be good for? It's a lot of different people. There's certainly the people with the pharmacy, nursing, medicine background, the health world, health sciences, but it doesn't have to be. It could be patients. It could be people with law degrees, other related biomedical fields. In other industries that require knowledge of this drug development and deployment. So it's very broad. We're expecting the class to be very different individuals, and that's what's going to make it very rich also. So the admissions requirement, no GRE or GMAT. Yay. Okay, look at that one. That's a big fold there. Basically, we're looking for bachelor's degree, GPR of 3.0. or greater, obviously. We are looking for some work experience. We want people that have been out in 2 or 3 years. You've worked some. You've got a little bit under your belt, because I think it's going to give you a lot more context for things. And I think it's going to be good for you because you're going to be working in groups and you're going to share your work experiences along with your other training and expertise. We're also looking at, well, you have to have a resume or a CV. There's a language requirements and basic kinds of things. There is the CV and the letters, but we are also going to do interviews. So we will interview everyone because we want to make sure, well, it's a good fit for us in the program. We want to make sure it's a good fit for you too. We want to make sure that we want to have our class be cohesive and it's going to work for everybody. I think so. Fees and financial support. So the cost per year is about $31,000 per year. It's a 2-year program. Program fees $825 per unit plus we do have some campus fees, $650 per quarter. And the same fees apply to you whether or not you're a California resident or non-resident or international students. A level playing field. There is financial support, and I'm going to have you talk to the UCSD Extension folks because they know all of this, and we can we'll ask questions in just a minute here. Merit-based scholarships, financial aids. There are veterans benefits that could be applied here also. And the deadline is March 14th, 2018. That's our application deadline that we're shooting for. And then I'm going to give Williams the last word.
Thank you, Jen. So you guys have been very quiet. I'm really hoping we're going to get some questions. Otherwise, I'll be really sad. Anyway, I hope you have learned a few things about what this program can bring to you. I have already met with one student right there in the back. She can tell you more about the program as well, hopefully. At the end of the day, we are here to answer any questions that you have. We hope that you find this interesting and that it was informative enough for you to make a decision. Again, if you have any other questions, I have business cards, so just let me know. I have only one number, which is my cell number only on my email. I don't have any other number, so if you call me, usually I will return calls. Yeah. I actually answer, yeah. I try to, unless I'm in meetings or traveling. Yeah. But I usually get back to email within 24 to 48 hours at the most, unless I'm on holiday, and that's a different story.
And we do have a mic for questions.
But again, please, if you have questions, the floor is yours. No. Come on, don't be shy.
We have a microphone, which will be good for the
couple questions.
Please.
Go for it.
Is it on?
It's on, yes.
It's on.
It's on. We're good.
Yes,
okay,
we're good.
Thank you. What about books?
Very good question. So, depending on the courses, you're not going to get many books to buy. Yeah. Okay, number one. Most books, actually, there is one book I will recommend, and if you want, I don't remember the exact title, but it's an amazing book, actually. It has nothing to do with what we are teaching, but it's extremely important from the perspective of how to keep an open mind, which is absolutely essential. From my perspective, most books are out of date the moment they are published, okay? Because we work in an academic setting, we are very used to publications. One could argue that even publications are out of date when they are published because they take a year to be published. On the other hand, we are going to use a lot of case studies. Mm-hmm. So a lot of these case studies you will have to purchase, but they are, I think, something like $4 a case studies or something like this, so they are really cheap. And it's going to be recommended reading, and a lot of it is going to be accessible on the internet. The internet is this wonderful thing that now gives you any information about almost everything for free. So there's not going to be many books requirement.
No.
I gotta know what biosimilars are. I don't understand that.
You have to come to the program to understand what biosimilars are. The question was, what are biosimilars? There are biologics medications, right? And I'll tell you one you know, and you don't think you know it. It's if I have wrinkles, and I don't have any wrinkles, but if I had wrinkles, what would I use? What could I use? Botox. It's a biologic. Okay, it's not a small chemical that's made in chemistry. You grow it basically. So Botox is a biological. Okay, but when you have regular drugs, you can go in and you can say, I don't want that. I want a generic. And sometimes there's a generic, right, available of that. And the generic is just like the brand name, and it's gone through the same testing, et cetera. So the generic costs less. But with biologics, which I just told you about, they're grown, kind of, so it's not as easy. So now we have these things called biosimilars. And they're not generics because they're grown differently, and it's completely, they're very, very similar. And now the big thing now is, can we interchange those? And some people think you can interchange them more than others.
They're for the same indication.
Same indication. They're very similar, but they're biosimilar. But you can't really call them a generic.
Okay.
And there are lots of other details about that besides that.
There's
That was a very small
there's an entire course that will be focused on biologics and biosimilar.
Because it's a big deal now.
Okay, I just have one last question.
Please.
So I imagine a lot of us are already in the industry, and with an internship, if we're working full-time, how do you anticipate us balancing that?
So that's an outstanding question. Let me repeat the question. Some of you are already working in a biotech company or in industry, medical device. How does the internship work out? Well, this is where we can be very creative, i.e., let's say you're working for a big company or a small company and you are in a specific field. So let's say you're in the lab, but you want to get into product management or project management. Well, then we will sit down with you and we'll work with you to select something that is outside of your regular work that you are doing right now, which is a specific project, maybe if you want to be in project management, and be, for maybe 3 months, a project manager. So we'll work with you and your employer from that perspective on trying to do that, because we realize that if you are working full-time, which is also another thing I should mention, we have moved the classes. The classes will be from 4 p.m. to 8 p.m. 3 days a week, actually to help students who are interested in doing this program while they are working. Okay, so that's very important. Thank you for asking that question. So we will work with you individually for your internship. It will be approved by your faculty mentor and in designing what the internship will be. So again, another thing maybe I did not mention at the beginning during the presentation is that from the get-go, you will have a faculty mentor that will work with you on your strategic career plan, but also throughout the program to make sure that everything is going well and there is no issues, and also help you with your career development.
And help you make connections
Exactly.
for those internships that it might not be in the company that you're in also.
Yes.
Other questions? There's a microphone if you want mine. Thank you.
So what type of final project would we have? Like, are we going to defend a thesis? Are we going to complete a project? Or are we doing something else?
So there is a comprehensive exam at the end. And one of the courses that William spoke about is kind of a review for the comprehensive exam, where we pull everything together and we all talk about it, and you tell us, okay, what do you want to know more about? And things may have changed in some of these areas. So we'll get you back up to date on that. And so it's not a thesis, it's a comprehensive exam at the end. Okay. There are a lot of smaller projects along the way, but don't think thesis. That's scary. That's not what this is. Yeah.
Other questions?
Here.
Right here.
I'm a chemical engineer, actually.
Okay.
Do I need to take other courses for it?
You have no other courses to take. I mean, so she just asked the question about, she's a chemical engineer, and she was asking if she needs to take other courses.
Yeah.
You really won't. I mean, having a chemistry background, I think you will have no problem at all.
Okay.
Yeah, there are really no prerequisites beyond having a degree and a good GPA, a bachelor's.
We are looking for smart student, and what I mean by smart student is I don't believe in innate, intelligence. We are looking for hardworking students who really want to be there, learn, and are willing to really put as much into the program as they are willing to get out. At the end of the day, I have 2 kids in college, and I keep telling them, you are going to succeed based on how much you are willing to work in doing what you are doing and what you are studying. And that's the same for this program. We will be here to help you out. Obviously, if you came to me and said, well, gee, I just have a degree in English literature and I've never learned science, it might be a bit difficult. But if you're interested on the business side, that's an option potentially to look at. I mean, so we will, again, interview students based on their background and their qualifications. But I would say any STEM-related degree will have no problem in this program.
And we do want, like I said, and we're going to
We want the
interview, we
diversity.
want to make sure that it's right for you too.
That's right.
So that everybody's going to be successful. Yeah. Yes.
My question is, how many years ago have you launched this program, and have you had any graduate?
Very.
Excellent question.
Yes.
0.
This is brand new.
This is it.
This is brand new.
First year?
The first cohort of students will start September
Yep.
2018.
Yep.
This is a brand new program.
Inaugural class. That's what we're looking for. And that will be very exciting, and you will get a lot of individual attention.
You'll be pioneers.
Very exciting. Yeah.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, please.
Wait, we'll come back to you.
What kind of time commitment outside of classes do you expect for incoming students?
So, very good question, and that's one of the things. So, the question is, what time commitment outside of class do you expect? So, we realize that many students are going to be working full-time. So, it's not going to be, and we have had many discussions about this actually from that perspective. It's not going to be what we call a meat grinder, okay? So, you're not going to be loaded with tons of work, but you will have some projects that you're going to be working on. So we estimated, I think it was about a couple of hours per course per week. Okay, so if you think about it, if you have 3 courses that you are having in a quarter, except for the first quarter, then you would have about 6 hours of work outside. Okay, for example, in my courses on the commercial side, on the marketing and business development, we are going to do a lot of case studies. And we have basically 2 2-hour sessions. One of the session will be discussion of case studies. So students will come up. I'll give you the case study a week ahead. You will study it with your team, let's say 3 students. You will discuss it. You will go through a number of questions. And then each week we'll have maybe we'll probably have at least a couple of teams present their perspective on that case study. Which will be part of the grade. So you'll be able to work from that standpoint. So again, there will be time also in some of the courses to be able to work with your classmate. It will depend on the courses, really.
The other thing we are doing, though, we are working with the instructors of the course chairs. So there's 3 courses in a quarter, right? We're sitting down with them now, going through their courses, and we're saying, okay, who's doing what? So there's not everybody doing a project, all projects and everything. We're trying to balance it across the three courses that you would take in one quarter.
There's a question over here.
Yeah, so one question I had is, so since the degree is more focused towards, the work, this work professionals, so what kind of experience a student should have in terms of technical experience or in terms of managerial experience that the course actually expects? Like, is it a mix of technical and management?
So let me repeat the question if I understand it correctly, just to make sure that everybody also hears it, is what type of experience, if I understand, do you need to apply to this program? Is it technical or is it managerial? Is that a fair assessment? Okay. It's varied. We are really looking for people who have some work experience. We are not prejudiced about one way or another. As Jan mentioned, we are going to interview every student. You want to make sure this is a fairly expensive program. You want to make sure that the ROI or return on investment is worth it, okay? We'll talk about this during the course as well. Or you can, to be more, financially astute, you can even start calculating an NPV, which is a net present value. I won't go there. Jan is going to kick me because she's like, here he goes again in mathematics. But she's an economist, you see, so she should be actually have no problem with it. But to answer your question, it really varies. As I said, just having work experience. The reason we want you to have the students to have work experience is because once you have been working in a company, large or small, you understand some of the issues you had absolutely no idea when you were a student. Okay, it's completely different. You know, it's one thing if I talk about surfing and suddenly I take the board and here I go and jump on the board in the ocean and suddenly I start eating sand and seawater, all right? It's quite a different thing. So we want people who have had that experience regardless whether on the technical side or the managerial side.
And the other thing of that is the variation of technical and managerial, because when you work in project teams in these companies, that's what it is.
That's exactly right.
It's technical, you know, and managerial people working together, and you don't know what the other ones know. That's the beauty of it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? Very good.
I can't believe we answered everything. Come on.
Wow. Okay. Well, we will stick around if
Yeah.
you want to ask more questions, but really we appreciate you coming. Thank you.
Yes,
thank you
thank
for the
you.
interest, and do reach out to us if you have more questions at any time. Thank you.
Thanks very much.
Thanks.